All right. Thank you so much, Teresa. Thank you so much, Tai. A very warm welcome to this campaign interview of Goodera. And we have been following your nonprofits work, Don't Shoot Portland, and we have been following your work as well. And we really, really appreciate that. And we eagerly wanted to connect with both of you for this cause. And so we basically wanted to understand more about this day, the importance of this day, and what are we actually trying to achieve, and what is Don't Shoot Portland actually, how is it creating an impact in the society, in the lives of people around them. So we wanted to discuss that, and without any delay, I'll quickly get on to my first question, and this would be the most basic question in today's time, but still I would like to understand your opinion and your approach to this particular issue. So even in the 21st century, why is it important to talk about the rights of people of color?
Well, it's important because we still don't have the full-fledged civil liberties and privacy rights and rights to be people in society. In a lot of places out, even in, we know in America, we have extremely, violent issues against people of color because of racism and because part of our, Constitution is to uphold white supremacy. But in all parts of the world, we see that there is this lack of value towards people of color. And I don't think that our children should inherit that in this world. I think that it harms everyone, including the person that is, promoting that type of violence because of privilege. I think that we're better when we see people as valuable people, not just as laborers.
Yeah, I agree with Teressa. I think I don't think we have a choice. I think it's something that you have to raise awareness about so that people can feel like they have someone to, speak for them, or they don't feel, alone when facing discrimination or racism, because it is happening all around us. And I think sometimes it's a very difficult experience to have. And knowing that there's support or people out there that are willing to advocate for you is very important.
All right, I totally agree with both of your points, and the point that you mentioned, Tai, that advocacy is very, very important, because we live in a society and we thrive on our surroundings and people around us. All right, so here I'm more interested. Before coming to my next question, I would like to ask one other question as well. Like, I want to understand that how does your nonprofit organization Don't Shoot Portland come into the picture, and how is it solving the issue and creating an impact in the lives of all those people who are facing these issues and challenges?
I think that we happen to implement the right things to get people involved with our programming by using history, art, and education. I think it allows people to understand what we're fighting for and gives them tools to be able to fight back or to be able to demand accountability. And I think that our emphasis on art and history especially helps people understand, that this isn't whatever they're going through. It kind of lends support to them to be able to read about, people that look like them, people that were revolutionaries in the movement for human rights and dignity, people that they can sort of like lend support from, because it is a very difficult thing to experience when you're being discriminated against. And it is, hard and sad for a lot of people. You feel very defeated when that happens to you. So instead of it being a normal thing, I think having the tools to fight back and to know your rights, and to, assert your rights as well in the court of law and to advocate and try to get accountability, I think that's important because you can change the world that way.
Absolutely. And I was going to say also that a couple of years ago, one of the reasons that we started using art as a means of communication and to mobilize people to participate in policy and civics and just to provide testimony to issues that affected them. Using art was a better way to communicate because there's a relationship with art that we all have intimately. And so if it's brought to us through dance or video or music or poetry or street performances or whatever type of medium that you use, there's this actual space that allows you to tell truth without being criticized for it. When you protest and you're standing up for your human rights and dignity, a lot of times if you're an impoverished person or you're a person of color, the world wants to reject the values of your voice because they feel like they don't want to be concerned with it because it's something that you haven't provided. You haven't done enough work. You haven't gotten enough education. Your family is, intergenerational poverty. They think there are issues like that that are stopping progress. But then when we start engaging in policy, we see that there are actually restrictions against your values as a person. If you didn't have a family that could send you to college to get degrees, then you're not valuable or qualified for jobs you might have experience in, or you might have self-taught. And a lot of that, if you're a person that is white and you have like this excellent intellect, people value you and they say, oh, wow, look at this genius. But if you're someone that comes from poverty and you have that same skill set, they kind of discredit you because they don't understand if you have a motivation or if it's real. So when we use art to communicate our human rights agenda, and the necessity for testimony and for not being complicit in these things, it gives us more space. We find ourselves in museums and institutions of education, and we're actually teaching them through residencies. So that kind of flips the script. And what we're seeing now in the world is that big corporations are like, you know what, we're not going to count on degrees as much as we need experience, because we're learning that instead of just saying we want to support our most vulnerable communities, we need to employ and institute them into developing who we are as social change makers, in society, because we can't live in this current imperialistic system. We have to motivate economic force for everyone. We can't afford to let people live in poverty and to die. I think we've seen that through COVID.
Definitely. And I think I love the approach that both of you have towards this issue. And basically, like you said, how corporates need to act to this and how the society needs to act against this issue. I think this is really very interesting. And here I'm more interested about the execution of this approach. So can any one of you or even both of you can share some of the programs, since you have been fighting against this ill since 2014, and you have been advocating for the rights of people of color all around the globe since 2014. And like, I would like to understand some of your programs, that some of your maybe achievements or some of your activities and campaigns that have actually brought this change that you're talking about.
Well, if anyone was watching Portland in 2020, what they saw was a serious commitment to social change. And we're in the whitest city in America. You know what I'm saying? We're outnumbered as people of color by white people in this space, and the white people out-earn the people of color. And so consistently sharing those stories and developing our programs. We have spring breakout programs that are focused on community engagement. We work with families and children for a period of 5 days during the springtime to kind of educate them on history, culture, and politics, current events. We also have Juneteenth programming that we do in the summer, where again, we're using history and art and culture and current political infrastructure to engage communities that are at risk. And outside of doing the educational programs, we also have like food distribution. We deliver food supplies, legal support. We provide all these intentional advocacy services so that we can connect with people that are in need. And instead of just doing the work for them, we work to educate them on self-advocacy so that they become, the professionals of dismantling policy that is inherently oppressive. And we've seen that come to a full circle because not only are our leaders, our state leaders, motivated by listening to our organization and the people that have found a voice through our organization, but our credibility in this community was astounding. There were over 40,000 people showing up for over 100 days to kind of elevate the message of Black Lives Matter here in the city of Portland. And in doing that work, it allowed myself and Ty and other actual members of the organization to advocate and engage strategy with other people around the country and around the world. So while people were out there protesting, we were still doing programs and workshops online to activate and build commitment through concerned people so that they could have a focused response to the protests. We didn't want people to be out protesting and not understand where they could get a call to action, where they could actually voice their concern and make change. So that's been consistent. My nephew was killed 11 years ago. And outside of auditing every agency to get an overview of where we were lacking in efficiency, we just started showing concern to educating community members, and that has been very effective.
Wow, that is actually very, very commendable, Teresa. And I'm so sorry for your loss. And at the same
Thank
time,
you.
is actually uh, extremely disheartening to see even in this today's era when people are so much more aware, so much more accessible to the right information that they can get, but still there
Yeah.
is so much of inconsistency and so much of gap that we yet have to fill. And I'm so grateful to your organization as well, because we have to start somewhere, and your organization has already started it. And although we have a long way to go from here, but at least we have started from and in a right direction. So I would like to appreciate that about Don't Shoot Portland. I think that is amazing. Also here I would like to deviate a little from this topic and talk about the recent pandemic that we faced, because that has been challenging for all of us, every single person in the world, in some or the other way. And I think that was the reason that the pandemic brought the word a bit more closer as well. So just a silver lining of the mishap that we have recently faced. But I would like to understand from both of you that how did Don't Shoot Portland face those challenges and deal with those challenges and overcome all the challenges that were posed by the pandemic? And in terms of the development and establishment of your organization, where are we currently after the pandemic is kind of slowing down or narrowing down?
Well, immediately before the protest started, we had already started supporting strategies for mutual aid development in our community as a community organization that provides, food resources before COVID, educational resources, family services, and legal services. We had a huge network of people that could be counted on to start building those commitments within their own neighborhoods, especially with social distancing and things like that. And so engaging and encouraging people to start providing resources to their communities, and especially encouraging people that had more than enough where they could actually share or organize, to share things with other people that had privilege. That was our first priority, because we knew that there were people that couldn't make it to stores and, they didn't have cars and transportation. And a lot of times traveling while you're trying to avoid a COVID infection, but getting on public transportation can be deadly. So making sure that people had direct access to food and, cleaning supplies, toilet paper, PPE, masks, and things like that was a priority. Once the protest started, that need became even clearer. But because there were so many thousands of people that were out there, we were able to organize those people on the ground to have a commitment within their communities. So not only protesting for Black Lives Matter and human rights and dignity, but they were also able to organize and build strategy around the commitment to engage resources for their communities. And so we saw an abundance of care and provision happening in different areas where there might have been a more vulnerable outcome. And so we continue that work. Even today, we just had a food distribution. Last month in November, we'll be doing another community outreach program of supplies next month, and on Dr. King's birthday. And so it's a consistent thing, but when the numbers of people that were concerned grew greater, there was a greater opportunity to give more. And so that was a priority, and it continues to be.
Wow, I think
I was going to say, and actually during the protests, I don't know, there was a lot of protests that were happening because of the George Floyd murder. And what we did as an organization organization was we actually, worked with doctors and scientists and chemists, and we published a RCA, a report about the chemical agents. And we talked about what all the science had to say about how that was affecting people during the COVID uprising. And we ended up working with Todd, do you remember the name of the health agencies that we worked with and different
Physicians for Human Rights?
Yeah, they published some of the information, and a lot of people used those documents to file lawsuits for their safety. And we also did the same thing because we felt that it was apprehensible that that you would be using chemical agents on people during a respiratory emergency. And so just wanted to note that.
Wow, thank you so much. I think you brought in a completely different angle to all this challenges that were posed by COVID pandemic, and this is something very new that I got to hear, which is not very common amongst all other nonprofits. The aspect that you are talking about, that during the protest, even the protests were going on while the COVID pandemic was there, and we Don't Shoot Portland tried to make sure that people don't get hurt by the pandemic and the protest at the same time. So and at the same time, you took help from several medical agencies as well, and this is actually a very great and different point to this aspect. So thank you so much for putting up that. Here I would like to discuss one another aspect of this entire issue that we're discussing today. So I said in the very first after the very first answer that I gave, that people live in a society and people thrive on that basis. It is very necessary to understand what surrounding you're living in, and the society and the people around you play a very very crucial role in every single person's life as well. So here I would like to understand, how does the society come in the picture of this particular issue? How do they impact, be it positive or negative? If negative, how can we change that to positive? Like basically asking about how society can play a vital role in uplifting the people of color around them.
I think we just need to start centering each other and seeing each other, and connecting with each other. In my life, I'm Ty's mother as well, but in the 51 years of my life, I've been treated as a second class citizen by people of color. You know what I'm saying? There's like this whole patriarchy where even now saying people of color implies that we all have the same struggle. And I think, again, that is a part of white supremacy where they get a hierarchy. I believe that we're all just people and that we're living on earth. I know that in America, we're actually living on stolen land. But the fact that because of my heritage, our ancestors were enslaved in this country, and a lot of the institutional values still harm us as Black people, and they don't harm a lot of other people of color. And so I've noticed the institutional partnership of that oppression, and I just wish that people would see that if Black people are being treated this way, this violent in America, then that means that at some point we can all be treated that way, because we did that to the first guardians of this land. We committed genocide on the indigenous people that lived here. We've created violence and homicide that is legal against Black people in this country. And now we're seeing the uprising of hate crimes against other people of color in this country, and there is no mandate for our safety. And I think that we have a stronger voice when we work together. I think we have a stronger voice when we uphold one another's human rights and dignity, because if people realize that the harmful people are the ones that are marginalized and not any of us, then it's less likely that they're going to feel confident in harming us.
Wow, very well put. I think this is actually you have covered all the entire gist of this issue and put it in a very simple way, that if the people that support equality and equal rights outnumber the people who do not, then it will actually eventually that will be the rise of the era of goodness, I would say. So I think that's a very well put answer. Thank you so much. And Teresa, so those were all my questions. And honestly, you uh, so wholesomely answered all my questions that I couldn't have any of the follow up questions, or like my all my curiosity was satisfied. So thank you so much for that. And I think I personally learned a lot of new things about this particular issue, and that is why I love interacting with nonprofit organizations on such contexts, because this enlightens even my purview and my processing of mind. So thank you so much for doing that. And
Well, thank you for the work you're doing.
yes, thank you so much. It means a lot coming from someone like you. And before ending this conversation, this amazing conversation, I would like you to take a moment and speak to all those potential volunteers that would be watching this video, and tell them that how their bare minimum effort can actually impact on such a wholesome level to in the lives of all the beneficiaries that you're supporting, and obviously to further the cause of nonprofits like yours.
Absolutely. And one of the things I believe in, I just think that for the work that we do, it starts at home. I think that if people realize that we're fighting for all of us, that it starts at home. We have to start teaching our children better. We have to be more intentional in the way that we socialize in community and even outside community, so that they see that action coming from us rather than just the words. Because I've heard words of encouragement and support for so many years and decades, and I've written and I've read so much, but I still don't see that moving in action. I see it moving forward now, but it took a pandemic and an uprising of white supremacy for us all to realize it. But it starts at home. I think anyone that's wanting to volunteer or interested in doing anything to further our movement, they need to start having conversations with people that they love and people that they come in contact with about worldviews on race and how we can be better people, better teachers for our children, because we don't have a lot of time individually to make, real specific intentional change, but we have little drops of time that we can be concerned with, and we can share that concern so that it can get done.
Wow. Thank you so much, Teresa, for sharing all those insightful thoughts of yours, and sharing such beautiful words for our potential volunteers as well. I wish that a lot of people come up to at least advocate for this cause. If not volunteer actively, then at least advocate at
Yes.
personal level, and uh, at their community level, so that
And they
we
can definitely sign up online. We have a link online, and we're always looking for volunteers, but it's very good to just start thinking before you go into that, who you are in this movement, what do you want to do, because it's a commitment.